page turners, welcome back to the channel. I'm Matthew, the man with the hat who reads, and this is The Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. Recently finished reading this. Picked it up for June on the Range because it kind of is throwing some homage to Magnificent 7 with that title, of course, being a Western. This book is not a Western, so if you're an anti-Western person, that's fine. I loved this. I freaking loved this book so much. This was so good. It was exactly what I needed right now. I was coming out of a month of meh, as I said in my May wrap-up video, and June was starting okay, but it wasn't great. This book this thing was everything I wanted it to be. Let's just kind of dive into what it's about. So, there's this demon summoning enchantress type character named Black Heron. She has built up this army of all these monstrous creatures and warriors and stuff, and she has been trying to take over the world. And at the very last minute, she just walked away from it. She was just like, I don't want to do this. And she walked away. They were all defeated and they all kind of got scattered to the wind. Well, she left because she found out she was with child and was not ready to just give up the world to these demons who she had sold her soul to. So she just left, and that was it. So then we jump ahead 40 years, and this new empire has risen up over the land. They are supposedly, with the power of their goddess, they are taking over the land. They're killing off anything that's not human, and they're just wanting to take control of the entire world. And she doesn't want that to happen because this is her world to take control of, essentially. So she gets a hold of a necromancer who was one of her captains and sends her out to assemble all her other previous captains to once again try to stop this empire and essentially take over the world, I guess, or at least free it for the kind of the monster's kind. So the necromancer sets off, and we get introduced to a bunch of characters. All of them are fun characters. You have a vampire who is probably the most bloodthirsty, what's the word I'm looking for? Crude vampire I've ever seen. And it's just amazing. I mean, there's literally different spots where he's just like, oh, this guy's bothering me. He just will rip a guy's heart out and eat it like a freaking apple. And it's like, it's bizarre and violent and it's crude. And that's just one character. I mean, we also have an orc chieftain who is wanting to just kill humans because she's an orc and they hate her, so she wants to kill all of them. And it's like, okay, that's kind of fun. There's a former war god whose worshippers were all killed by this empire, and yet he survived, but he has no like divine powers anymore, or at least not like he used to. And now he's just a drunk, and his character arc is so fascinating and interesting. There's a freaking mad scientist who's specializes in chemical type warfare. At one point, he literally turns a herd of swine pigs into like freaking walking bombs. It's insane and so bizarre. And there's a pirate queen also, and I don't want to say some of the stuff that happens. I don't want to spoil things. There's so many cool things that kind of come around and play in this book. It's just... And of course, none of these characters really like each other anymore either. They all hate their general, Black Heron. So they all want to kill her, but they also all want something. So some of them are making blood oaths with each other, and some of them are like, oh, well, we'll put our differences aside, but when this is over, we're going to kill each other. And it's just, oh, I just had a lot of fun with this book. I really did. It just flew by for me. My only nitpick is that after we assemble all these characters, and before we get into the actual battle, it just kind of felt like we hit like a little bit of a slog. It just kind of was like, but then it picks up again. It wasn't very long. It just felt like there was a brief little moment in the book where it just like we kind of ground to a halt a little bit. The action kind of stopped, but then it picked up and proceeded on again. But that didn't even bother me because the end of this book was so fun. There is kind of some setup for a sequel that I don't think we're going to get. I mean, this book came out 3 years ago now. Published in 2021. It could get a sequel. I've heard nothing announced about a sequel. And it really doesn't need a sequel, but it does. There are pieces in play at the end of this that we could get a sequel. I'm happy with it as a standalone. This was everything I wanted. This was a fantastic fantasy demon story. I mean, I can recommend this to everybody, because if you're a fantasy fan or you like demons and necromancer type stuff or vampire type stuff or whatever, you're probably going to enjoy this at least a little bit. I thought it was an absolute blast. It was a 5-star book for me. Easily it'll be in my top 10 at the end of the year, unless I read a ton of 5 stars, which could happen. I mean, fingers crossed, right? It's not The Coil, so it's already better than that. But I loved that book. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't read it, then go ahead and take a look for it and consider it, because I really enjoyed it. So those are my thoughts on the Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. Also, I didn't mention it, but it is from those lovely publishers at Angry Robot. And there's in the corner is the logo again too. And yeah, the cover art on this. I mean, look at that cover. I mean, the cover itself, it makes it look awesome. And it was just a fun book. But what did you guys think? Does this sound like a book you'd enjoy? Have you read this book? What were your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below about what you think of this book, if it sounds like one you'd enjoy, or if you've read it. And yeah, that's what I have for the review for today. So thanks for watching, and until next time, keep turning pages.